The phone had been ringing for 4 minutes straight. Lila pressed her cleaning cloth against her ear, trying to focus on the intricate crown molding she was supposed to be dusting, but the shrill sound cut through the Vampire King's private study like a knife through silk. It was her third week working in the palace, her third week of barely sleeping, constantly terrified of breaking something priceless or saying the wrong thing to the wrong person. The cleaning service had been very clear during orientation. The East Wing was completely off limits during daylight hours, but her supervisor had called in sick, and Lila had drawn the short straw for the emergency shift. The phone rang again. Lila glanced out the door, still closed, still silent. The king wasn't due back from his council meeting for another hour. Everyone in the palace knew King Darius's schedule. He was nothing if not precise, predictable, and cold as the marble floors she scrubbed every morning before the sun rose. The phone rang a fifth time, and Lila's hands moved before her brain could stop them. She crossed the room in 4 quick steps, her worn shoes silent on the Persian rug, and lifted the heavy receiver. "Hello?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. A woman's voice crackled through the line, sharp and imperious. "Finally, do you have any idea how long I've been calling?" Lila's throat tightened. "I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. Put Darius on immediately. His mother is dying and he needs to come home." The words hit Lila like a physical blow. Dying, mother, home. She thought of her own mother, 2 years in the ground now, and how she'd give anything for one more phone call, one more chance to say the things she'd left unsaid. "I'm so sorry, my dear." The words slipped out automatically, soft and genuine, the same way she'd spoken to her mother during those final weeks. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then the woman's voice changed completely, going from ice to something almost warm. Oh, I didn't realize. You must be—" She paused, and Lila could hear the smile in her voice. "You must be her." Lila's stomach dropped. Her? But the woman was already continuing, words tumbling out in a rush. "I'm Darius's aunt, Samira. I apologize for my tone. I've been trying to reach him all morning, and I was afraid— well, his mother doesn't have much time left. Days, perhaps, hours. I need him to come to the family estate immediately." Lila's mind raced. She should correct this, should explain that she was just a cleaning girl who'd made a terrible mistake. But something in the woman's voice, the desperation beneath the aristocratic polish, stopped her. "I'll make sure he gets the message the moment he returns," Lila said carefully. "I'll tell him it's urgent." "Thank you, my dear." Samira's relief was palpable. "And thank you for being there for him. I know he doesn't show it, but Darius needs someone, especially now." The line went dead before Lila could respond. She stood frozen, receiver in hand, trying to process what had just happened. The woman thought she was what? The king's secretary? His assistant? Something else entirely? The door opened. Lila spun around so fast she nearly dropped the phone. King Darius stood in the doorway, and for a moment neither of them moved. He was tall, everyone said so, but standing alone with him in his private study, Lila realized tall didn't cover it. He filled the space like a storm cloud, all dark hair and dark eyes and shoulders that blocked out the light from the hallway. His face was carved from the same marble as his palace floors, beautiful in the way ancient statues were beautiful, perfect and cold and utterly untouchable. "What are you doing in my study?" His voice was quiet, too quiet. Lila learned quiet was more dangerous than shouting in the vampire court. "Your phone was ringing," she managed, the words coming out barely above a whisper. I thought it might be important." Darius's eyes narrowed. "You answered my private line. It wasn't a question." "Your aunt called." Lila forced herself to meet his gaze. "Your mother is dying. She needs you at the family estate." Something flickered across Darius's face, too fast to name. His jaw tightened, and for a heartbeat, Lila saw something raw beneath the marble exterior. Then it was gone, smoothed away like it had never existed. "You spoke to Samira?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "What exactly did you say?" Lila's hands twisted in her apron. "I said I would give you the message, that it was urgent." "And?" His gaze was steady, unreadable. And I told her I'm sorry for her loss, for your loss. The silence stretched between them like a held breath. Darius crossed to his desk in 3 long strides and lifted a different phone, the ornate one with gold trim that Lila had been too terrified to touch. He pressed a button and waited. This is the king. Prepare my car. I'm leaving for the family estate within the hour. He hung up without waiting for confirmation. Then he turned back to Lila. His expression was still unreadable, but something had shifted in the air between them. What's your name? Lila Hassan, Your Majesty. How long have you worked here? 3 weeks, sir. And in those 3 weeks, have you made a habit of answering phones that don't belong to you? No, sir. It won't happen again. I apologize. I'll go. She started toward the door, but his voice stopped her. Samira thinks you're my fiancé. The world tilted. Lila found the door frame for support. What? When you said, I'm so sorry, my dear, she assumed, Darius' lips twitched almost imperceptibly, you were speaking to me. My aunt has been pestering me for years to marry, to produce an heir, to stop being so desperately alone. He said the last part without emotion, like he was reading from a weather report. She heard a woman's voice on my private line speaking to me with familiarity, and she made an assumption. I didn't, Lila's voice cracked. I wasn't trying to, I know. Darius moved to the window, his back to her now. But you did. And now Samira believes I'm bringing my fiancé home to meet my dying mother. His mother, dying. Lila thought of that desperate edge in Samira's voice. I know he doesn't show it, but Darius needs someone, especially now. I can call her back, Lila said quietly. Explain the mistake. No. The single word hung in the air like a sword. Lila stared at his back, at the rigid line of his shoulders beneath his black coat. Your Majesty, Lila's voice stopped him at the door. He turned. What should I call you when we're there, when people are watching? Darius was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made Lila's heart skip. Darius, just Darius, my love. And he left, closing the doors softly behind him. Lila stood alone in the study, surrounded by books and shadows and the fading echo of a phone call that had changed everything. She'd come to the palace looking for a job, a way to survive, to send money back to her younger brother who was still in school, still had a chance at something better. She hadn't come looking for this, for a vampire king with lonely eyes and a dying mother and a lie that felt too much like the truth. Outside the window, storm clouds gathered over the city. Lila watched them roll in, dark and heavy with rain. In 1 hour, she would step into a car beside a man she didn't know, would travel to a place she'd never been, would pretend to be someone she wasn't, would stand beside a deathbed and lie to a dying woman about loving her son. Lila pressed her hand against the cold glass and wondered what she'd just agreed to, wondered if kindness could be a mistake, wondered what happened when the truth finally came out. The phone rang again. This time, Lila didn't answer. The car was black as midnight and twice as silent. Lila sat in the back seat, pressed against the door, trying to take up as little space as possible. Darius sat beside her, close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from his skin, far enough that they might as well have been in different vehicles. He hadn't spoken since they'd left the palace, just settled into the leather seat, pulled out a stack of documents, and began reading with the kind of focus that made it clear conversation wasn't welcome. Lila watched the city blur past her window. Stone buildings gave way to countryside, the palace growing smaller in the distance until it disappeared completely. She thought about her brother, about the texts she'd sent before leaving. Emergency trip with work. We'll call soon. Love you. Ahmed had responded with 3 heart emojis and a reminder about his upcoming exams. Normal. Safe. Everything this situation wasn't. You're afraid of me. Darius's voice cut through the silence. Lila jumped. I'm not. Liar. He set down his papers and turned to face her. His eyes were dark. Not cruel exactly, just ancient. Like he'd seen too much and felt too little and forgotten what it meant to be surprised. You've been holding your breath for the past 20 minutes. I can hear your heart racing. It's a very human response to being alone with a vampire. I'm not afraid, Lila made herself meet his gaze. Just nervous. About what? The lie, Lila said honestly. I'm not good at lying. Then why did you agree to this? Because your mother is dying, and because no mother should die thinking her child is miserable. Darius's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. You lost your mother. It wasn't a question. 2 years ago, Lila's throat tightened. Cancer. She was sick for 8 months. Toward the end, she kept apologizing for being a burden, for not getting better, for leaving me and Ahmed alone. I told her every day that she wasn't a burden, that we loved her, that everything would be okay. She took a breath. I lied, too, at the end, because sometimes kindness matters more than truth. The car fell silent again, but it was different now, less cold. Darius looked out his window at the passing fields. How old is Ahmed? 16. He's brilliant, wants to study medicine. Lila smiled despite everything. He's nothing like me. He actually has a future. And you don't? I clean floors in a palace, Lila shrugged. That's not exactly a future. It's a job. Darius' voice was measured. There's a difference. What did you want to be before? It doesn't matter. It does to me. The words were quiet, but firm. Lila studied him, looking for mockery or manipulation, finding only genuine curiosity. I wanted to be a teacher, English literature. I had a scholarship to university, full ride. But then my mother got sick and the medical bills. She stopped. You know how it goes. I do, Darius said softly. My mother raised me alone for the first century of my life. My father died in a war I can barely remember. She worked in the royal kitchens, took extra shifts, taught herself to read so she could teach me. Lila blinked. You weren't always a king? No one is always anything. His lips curved, not quite a smile. I was a kitchen boy once, stealing pastries and getting caught more often than not. What changed? The old king noticed me, saw something. Potential, maybe, or desperation. He had no heirs, no family. He needed someone to carry on his legacy. And you said yes? I said yes because my mother would never have to work another day, because she could have the life she deserved, because I could give her everything she'd given me. Darius's voice was soft. And because I was young enough to believe that power was the same as happiness. Is it? No, the word fell like a stone. Power is cold and lonely, and it takes everything until you forget what it felt like to be warm. Lila had expected judgment, expected questions and scrutiny and the sharp assessment of a mother protecting her son from a fortune hunter. Instead, Nadia smiled. Come closer, dear. Let me see you properly. Lila moved to the other side of the bed. The afternoon light caught in Nadia's silver hair, making her look ethereal, fading, like she was already halfway to another world. You're younger than I imagined. Nadia's eyes were kind, sharper than Samira's, but warmer too, and prettier, though Darius always did have excellent taste in everything except his own happiness. Mama. Darius's voice held affection and exasperation in equal measure. Don't embarrass her. I'm not embarrassing anyone. I'm simply stating facts. Nadia reached out a trembling hand. Lila took it without thinking. The older woman's skin was cool, papery, but her grip was surprisingly firm. Tell me how you met. My son is terrible at details. He sent me a letter saying he'd found someone. 1 paragraph, no description, no story, just, I wanted you to know. Lila glanced at Darius. He was watching his mother with such open tenderness, it made her throat tight. We met at the palace, Lila said softly. I was delivering books to the library. I dropped an entire stack right in front of him. First editions, too. I was mortified. And he helped me pick them up. She felt the lie take shape, become real in the telling. He asked what I was reading. I showed him a collection of poetry, old stuff, romantic but not sentimental. He quoted the opening lines from memory, Word perfect. I was surprised. Nadia's eyes sparkled. Because you thought a vampire king wouldn't know poetry? Because I thought anyone who spent their days in council meetings wouldn't have time for beauty. Lila surprised herself with the honesty underneath the lie. But he did. He made time. We started meeting in the library, just to talk about books at first, then about everything else. What did you talk about? Everything, Lila said, and nothing. The weight of crowns, the price of power, whether stars care if we name them, if stories matter more than history, whether it's possible to be lonely in a palace full of people. She paused. He told me once that he'd forgotten how to have conversations that weren't negotiations, that every word he spoke had to be measured, calculated, political. But in the library, surrounded by books, he could just be. Darius was staring at her, expression unreadable, but something in his eyes looked almost like recognition. And you fell in love. Nadia's voice was soft. Over poetry and philosophy and conversations that didn't require strategy. Lila met Darius's gaze, held it. I fell in love with the person he was when he forgot to be a king, with the man who quoted romantic poetry and asked if stars care about their names, with someone who was lonely in a palace full of people and didn't know how to ask for warmth. That's my son, Nadia whispered. That's exactly my son. She squeezed Lila's hand. Thank you for seeing him, for finding him underneath all that marble. I didn't find him, Lila said truthfully. He was always there, just waiting for someone to look. Nadia closed her eyes, smiled. You're good for him, I can tell, not because of what you say, but because of how he looks at you, like you're the first real thing he's seen in centuries. The room fell into comfortable silence. Outside the window, birds sang in the garden. The afternoon light shifted, growing golden. Lila felt Darius's presence beside her, solid and real, despite the lies between them. I'm tired now, Nadia said without opening her eyes, but I want you both to stay. Come back tomorrow. Bring me more stories. Tell me how he proposed. Tell me about your plans. Tell me everything. We will. Darius leaned down and kissed his mother's forehead. Rest, Mama. I love you. I know. Nadia's smile was fading as sleep pulled her under. You've always loved deeply. You just forgot how to show it. Until now. They left quietly. Samira was waiting in the hallway, her expression softer than before. She's happy, Samira said simply. Happier than I've seen her in years. Thank you for that. We should let her sleep. Darius's voice was rough. Samira nodded. I've prepared rooms for you both. The blue suite. It has a lovely view of the garden. And one room? Darius interrupted. What? We'll need one room, Darius said evenly. We're engaged. It would be strange to sleep separately. Lila's heart stopped. Oh, Samira's smile grew. Of course, how modern. I'll have the staff adjust. She left practically floating down the hallway. The moment she was gone, Lila turned to Darius. One room? We're supposed to be engaged, he said reasonably. My aunt would find it suspicious if we requested separate quarters. I'm not, Lila lowered her voice. I'm not sleeping with you. I'm not asking you to. Darius's expression was carefully neutral. The suite has a sitting room with a sofa. I'll take it. You'll have the bed. For how long? However long this takes. His jaw tightened. Days, maybe a week. My mother is... He stopped. Dying, Lila finished gently. Yes. Then we'll make it work. Lila took a breath. But we need rules. Rules. Ground rules. Boundaries. This is already complicated enough without what? Without it becoming real. The words hung between them. Darius's expression shifted, something almost like hurt crossing his features before he smoothed it away. Of course, very practical. He turned toward the stairs. The blue suite is on the third floor. I'll show you. They climbed in silence. The house was beautiful in a lived-in way the palace never was. Photos everywhere. Darius as a child, serious-eyed and solemn. Nadia, young and laughing. Samira with the man who must have been her husband, long gone now. Family. Real and warm. And exactly what Lila had lost. The blue suite was stunning. All windows and light, and a view of gardens that looked like they'd been growing wild for centuries. The bed was enormous, canopied, covered in soft blue linens that probably cost more than Lila made in a year. The sofa in the sitting room was small, uncomfortable looking, definitely not designed for sleeping. "You should take the bed," Lila said. "I'll be fine on the sofa." "Absolutely not. You're doing me a favor. The least I can do is—" "I'm serious," Lila cut him off. "You're grieving. You're about to lose your mother. You need rest. You need to be comfortable, while pretending to be engaged to a stranger." "We're not strangers anymore." Darius's voice was quiet. "Are we?" Lila didn't know how to answer that, didn't know what they were. Too close for strangers, too false for friends, too tangled in lies to be anything real. "I'm going to walk in the garden," Darius said suddenly. "Clear my head. You should rest, settle in. There's a closet full of clothes. Samira always keeps guest wardrobes. Find something appropriate for dinner. We eat at 7. He left before Lila could respond. She stood alone in the blue suite, surrounded by luxury and lies and the fading scent of flowers. This was a mistake, had to be. But when she thought about Nadia's smile, about the hope in her eyes, about the way Darius had looked at his dying mother with such desperate love, Lila couldn't regret it. Not yet. She moved to the closet, found it full of beautiful things. Dresses and blouses and skirts and soft fabrics and rich colors, all her size, as if Samira had known exactly what to provide. Lila chose a simple dress for dinner, deep green, elegant but not showy. Then she stood at the window and watched Darius walk in the garden below. He moved like he was carrying the weight of centuries, head down, shoulders tight, alone, even surrounded by beauty. She thought about what she'd told Nadia, about falling in love with the person he was when he forgot to be a king. It was a lie meant to comfort a dying woman. So why did it feel so much like the truth? Why did her chest ache watching him? Why did she want to go down there and walk beside him and tell him he didn't have to carry everything alone? Lila pressed her hand against the cold glass, reminded herself this was temporary, a kindness, a lie that would end the moment Nadia passed, a week at most, then back to the palace, back to cleaning floors, back to being invisible, back to being no one. The problem was, looking at Darius in the garden, remembering the way his hand had felt around hers, recalling the crack in his marble exterior when he said, "Power is lonely," Lila was starting to forget how to be no one, starting to feel like someone, like the woman in her own lies, like someone who could fall in love with a vampire king over poetry and philosophy and conversations that didn't require strategy. "It's not real," Lila whispered to her reflection. "None of this is real." But her reflection didn't look convinced, and when Darius looked up at the window, when his eyes found her, dinner was served in a small dining room that overlooked the gardens. Just the four of them. Samira, Nadia, who'd insisted on joining despite her weakness, Darius, and Lila, wearing her borrowed green dress and trying not to feel like an imposter. The food was simple, soup and bread and roasted vegetables. Nothing like the elaborate palace meals Lila had glimpsed from the servants' corridors. This felt like family, intimate and warm, and terrifying. Nadia sat at the head of the table, propped up with pillows. Her hands trembled as she lifted her spoon, but her eyes were bright, determined. "Tell me about the proposal," she said. "I want details." Darius had been reaching for his water glass. His hand froze halfway. Lila felt panic rise in her throat. They hadn't discussed this, hadn't planned. It was raining. The words came out before Lila knew she was speaking. We were in the library, late, past midnight. I'd stayed to finish cataloging a new collection. I didn't know he was there. He was reading in the corner, in the dark. She glanced at Darius, found him watching her with an expression she couldn't read. I startled him when I turned on the lights, made him drop his book. First editions. She smiled slightly. We have a history with dropped books. Nadia laughed softly. Go on. We started talking, Lila continued, like we always did, about the book he'd been reading, about why he was awake so late, about why I stayed in the library when I could have been anywhere else. She paused. He said he stayed because it was the only place he felt like himself, and I said, I stayed because it was the only place I felt less alone. Something shifted in the air. Darius was completely still, listening. What happened next? Samira asked. Her tone suggested she knew they were lying, but also that she didn't care. He told me he'd been thinking about something. Lila's voice dropped. Something important. He asked if I believed in timing, if I thought there was a right moment for things, or if people just made moments matter by choosing them. She met Darius's eyes across the table. I said I thought moments mattered when people were brave enough to name them, when they stopped waiting for perfect and chose real instead. And then, Nadia was leaning forward, then he got down on one knee in the middle of the library, surrounded by books and rain sounds and lamplight, and he said, Lila paused. What had a vampire king said in her imagination? What words would crack through marble and make loneliness feel like a choice instead of a sentence? He said he'd spent 300 years learning to be alone, learning to not need, to not want, to not hope. Lila's throat was tight, but that I'd taught him something new, that loneliness wasn't strength, that choosing someone wasn't weakness, that maybe the bravest thing he'd ever done wasn't winning a war or wearing a crown, it was asking me to stay. The silence in the room was absolute. Samira had stopped eating. Nadia's eyes were bright with tears. And Darius? Darius looked at Lila like she'd reached into his chest and pulled out something he thought was dead. Is that what I said? His voice was barely a whisper. It's what you meant, Lila answered. Even if the words were different, even if I'm remembering wrong, that's what you meant. I didn't say yes right away, she continued. Nadia wiped her eyes. I hope you made him wait. I did. Lila smiled. I told him I needed time to think, that this was too important to rush, that I needed to be sure, and I made him wait 3 days. 3 of the longest days of his life, Samira said dryly, I imagine. Then what? Then I went back to the library, Lila continued. Same time, same place. He was there, reading the same book, like he'd been waiting, like he knew I'd come. And you said yes. Nadia's smile was radiant. I said yes. Lila felt Darius's gaze on her, felt the weight of it, the question underneath. Because I realized something. What? That I was already staying, that I'd been staying for months without realizing it, that every conversation, every shared silence, every moment in that library, I was choosing him. The ring came later. Darius spoke for the first time, his voice rough. I wanted her to have a choice first, before promises, before symbols. I wanted her to choose me without anything binding her. That's beautiful. Nadia reached across the table, took both their hands. Both of you. That's beautiful. The rest of dinner passed in easier conversation. Stories from Darius's childhood, Samira's memories of the estate, Nadia's gentle questions about their plans. Where would they live? The palace? When would they marry? After Mama. Darius's voice broke slightly. After. Nadia nodded, understood without asking. As they were finishing dessert, she stood, wavered. Samira rushed to her side, but Nadia waved her off. I want to show you something, she said to Lila, in the garden, before the light is completely gone. Mama, you should rest. Darius was already moving. I'll rest when I'm dead, which is soon enough. I want to show your fiancé the roses now. Outside, the garden was caught in that perfect moment between day and night. The sky still held light, but the shadows were deepening. Nadia walked slowly, one hand on Samira's arm, the other gesturing to the flowers. I planted these 50 years ago, she said, when I realized Darius would outlive me by centuries, that he'd be alone in ways I couldn't protect him from. I wanted him to have a place that felt like love, like family, like home. They're beautiful, Lila said honestly. They are. Nadia stopped beside a climbing rose, deep red, almost black. But beauty isn't why I'm showing you. I'm showing you because they almost died 3 times. First winter, then a blight, then a drought that lasted 2 years. She touched a petal gently, but they survived because I refused to let them go, because I tended them, protected them, fought for them. You think love is like roses, Lila said softly. I think my son is like roses. Nadia turned to face her fully. Beautiful, strong, but more fragile than he looks. He survived winters and blights and droughts of the soul. But he's tired, I can see it. The way he holds himself, like he's bracing for the next wound. Lila's chest ached. I know. Do you love him? The question was direct. Lila opened her mouth, closed it, scrambled for the right lie. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Nadia's gaze was sharp. Tell me the truth. Can you love him? The difference was everything. Lila thought about Darius in the garden, about the way he said power is lonely, about his hand around hers, about the way he listened to her lies about proposals and made them feel like prophecy. I don't know, Lila whispered, but I think I could, if he let me, if he believed he deserved it. That's what I thought, Nadia smiled. You see him, really see him, not the crown, not the power, the person underneath. Is that enough for you? It's everything. Nadia's eyes filled. I'm going to be gone soon, days now, maybe less, and I need to know that he'll have someone who sees him, who won't let him disappear into marble and loneliness and 300 years of not hoping, who will fight for him the way I fought for these roses. I'm not, Lila's voice cracked. This isn't what you think. It isn't it? Nadia tilted her head. You're here, in a garden, talking to a dying woman about her son. You could have said no to whatever brought you here, could have walked away, but you chose to stay, to stand beside him, to be what he needs, even if you don't understand why yet. Lila felt tears building. I'm not who you think I am. You're exactly who I think you are. Nadia took her hands. You're someone kind enough to answer a phone that wasn't yours, someone brave enough to say yes to an impossible situation, someone honest enough to admit you don't know if you can love him, but willing to try. That's all I ever wanted for him, someone willing to try. The light was almost gone. Samira appeared at Nadia's shoulder. We should go in. It's getting cold. Nadia nodded but didn't release Lila's hands. Promise me something. Anything. Don't let him be alone. When I'm gone, when this gets hard, when he pushes you away, because that's what he does when he's hurting, don't let him be alone. I promise. The words came out stronger than Lila expected. I won't let him be alone. Nadia squeezed her hands once, then let Samira lead her back towards the house. Lila stood in the garden as darkness fell, surrounded by roses that refused to die, with the vampire king's hand in hers and truth trembling on her lips. The garden door opened, Darius stepped out, found her in the darkness. Are you all right? Your mother showed me the roses, Lila's voice was steady, told me how hard she fought to keep them alive. She does that, brings people here, tells them about fighting for beauty. It's her way of saying she's worried about you, Lila turned to face him, of saying she wants someone to keep fighting for you when she's gone. I don't need— Yes, you do, Lila interrupted. You do need. You need someone to see you, to refuse to let you disappear into marble and loneliness and 300 years of not hoping. Darius was quiet for a long moment. This was supposed to be simple. A few days, a kindness for a dying woman, then back to normal. What if I don't want normal? The words slipped out before Lila could stop them. What if I want— She stopped, couldn't finish, didn't know how. What? Darius stepped closer. What do you want, Lila? To stop lying, to make the proposal story real, to stand in a library at midnight and hear him ask her to stay. Layla woke to find Darius already gone from the suite. The sofa was empty. blankets folded neatly, no sign he'd slept at all. She found him an hour later in Nadia's room, sitting beside the bed, holding his mother's hand, reading aloud from a book so old the pages crackled. Nadia was sleeping, her breathing shallow and uneven, but even unconscious, she looked peaceful, like she was listening. Layla stood in the doorway, unwilling to interrupt, unwilling to leave. Darius's voice was soft as he read, some old poem about gardens and seasons and things that bloom despite the cold. He must have sensed her presence because he paused mid-verse, looked up, found her watching. "She likes poetry," he said quietly. "Used to read to me when I was young, before I learned the words myself." "It's beautiful." Layla stepped into the room. "What is it?" "Rumi." Darius showed her the cover. "She gave me this book when I became king, said I'd need it to remember that power without beauty is just force." "Did it help?" "Sometimes, when I remembered to read it, when I let myself feel things instead of just strategize." Layla moved closer. "How is she?" "Fading." The word was simple, devastating. "The doctors say days, but I think—" He stopped. "Hours?" "Yes." They sat in silence, watching Nadia breathe, each breath a small victory, a borrowed moment. "I'm sorry," Layla said. "For what?" "That this is happening, that I can't, that there's nothing I can do to fix it." "You're here." Darius's eyes met hers. "That's not nothing." Samira appeared in the doorway, looked between them. "The doctor is here, wants to examine her. You should both get breakfast, rest. I'll stay with her." Darius didn't move for a long moment. Then he nodded, stood, leaned down and kissed his mother's forehead. "I'll be back soon, Mama. I love you." They left together, walked downstairs, found breakfast laid out in the small dining room. Neither of them ate much. "You should sleep," Layla said. "You look exhausted." "I'll sleep when—" He stopped, couldn't finish. "When she's gone?" Layla finished gently. "Yes." "That's not healthy." "Nothing about this is healthy." Darius's smile was bitter. "I'm watching my mother die, pretending my engagement is real, lying to a woman who deserves truth, falling for someone who's only here because—" "Because what?" Layla's heart raced. "Because I asked you to lie, because you're being kind, because this isn't real, no matter how much I want it to be." He stood abruptly. "I need air." "Wait," Layla caught his hand. "Darius." He stopped, didn't turn. "This is real." "What?" "The engagement is fake, but this?" She gestured between them. "Whatever this is, whatever we're becoming, that's real." "How do you know?" "Because I wouldn't hurt this much if it wasn't." The words hung between them, raw and honest and terrifying. Darius stared at her, something breaking in his expression. "Layla, don't. Don't push me away because you're scared. Don't hide behind marble because feeling something is hard. I'm not—" "Yes, you are." Layla's voice was firm. "You're grieving and terrified, and you don't know how to let someone in, so you're trying to make this small, make it temporary, make it safe. But it's not safe. It stopped being safe the moment I said yes in your study, the moment you held my hand in the car, the moment you looked at me in the garden like I mattered." "I can't—" Darius's voice broke. "I can't do this right now. I can't lose her and lose you. And you're not losing me. Then what are you doing?" "Staying," Layla said simply. "I'm staying, even when you push, even when you hide, even when this gets harder. I promised your mother I wouldn't let you be alone, and I keep my promises." Something in Darius cracked, actually cracked, the marble exterior splitting like ice under pressure. He pulled Layla close, not roughly, but desperately, like she was an anchor and he was drowning. His arms wrapped around her, his face pressed into her hair, his whole body trembled. "I don't know how to do this." His voice was muffled. "How to need someone, how to let them close, how to survive them leaving." "Then learn." Layla held him just as tightly. "We'll both learn together." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in a dining room full of uneaten breakfast and morning light, learning what it felt like to need, to be needed, to choose each other despite fear. Samira found them like that, cleared her throat gently. She's asking for you, both of you. They pulled apart. Darius's eyes were red, his expression raw, but he took Layla's hand, held it firm, led her upstairs. Nadia was awake, barely, but her eyes found them immediately, tracked their joined hands, smiled. There you are. Her voice was a whisper. I was dreaming. About what? Darius sat beside her. Layla stood behind him, hand on his shoulder. About your wedding. Nadia's smile grew. You were so happy, both of you, standing in a garden full of roses, promising forever. That sounds beautiful. Layla's throat was tight. It was. Nadia reached up, touched Darius's face. My beautiful boy. So strong, so brave, so terrible at asking for help. Mama, shh. Let me say this. Her breathing was labored. I'm proud of you, of the king you became, the man you are. But mostly, I'm proud that you found her, that you let yourself love again. I didn't let myself anything, Darius's voice cracked. She just happened. The best things do. Nadia's hand dropped, found Layla's, and squeezed weakly. Take care of him. Make him laugh. Don't let him work all the time. Remind him that books exist, that gardens grow, that he deserves softness. I will, Layla promised. I'll take care of him. And let him take care of you, too, Nadia added. He needs that, too. Needs to feel useful, needed. Let him protect you sometimes, even when you don't need protection, especially then. Layla nodded, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. Good. Nadia closed her eyes. That's good. Darius? Yes, Mama. Marry her soon. Don't wait. Life is too short, even for vampires. We will. Darius leaned down, kissed her forehead. We'll marry in the rose garden, just like you dreamed. Promise? Promise. Nadia's breathing slowed, evened out. She drifted into sleep, but her face was peaceful, content. They stayed with her all day, reading, talking quietly, sometimes just sitting in silence. Samira brought food they didn't eat, tea they let go cold. The sun moved across the sky. Afternoon faded to evening. Nadia awoke occasionally, smiled at them, drifted back under. As twilight fell, her breathing changed, became shallower, slower, more labored. The doctor came, looked grave, said it wouldn't be long. Did she want anything for pain? No, Darius's voice was firm. She wanted to be present, aware, to the end. The doctor nodded, left them alone. Darius held Nadia's hand. Layla held Darius's. Samira sat in the corner, quiet, grieving. Night fell. The room grew dark except for a single lamp. Nadia's breathing rattled, paused, continued, each breath more difficult than the last. Darius? Her voice was barely audible. I'm here. Stay with her. Be happy. Let yourself. She couldn't finish. Darius understood anyway. I promise. I'll try. Good boy. Nadia's eyes found Layla. Love him. Yes, Layla's tears fell. I do. I will. The words felt true, truer than anything she'd ever said. Nadia's voice faded. We know. Darius's tears fell too. We love you too, Mama, so much. Nadia smiled, just slightly. Then her breathing stopped. Just stopped. The room went silent. Darius didn't move, didn't speak, just held Nadia's hand, held it like letting go meant accepting, meant she was really gone. Samira stood, moved to the bed, checked for a pulse, found none. She's at peace now. Samira's voice was gentle. She was happy at the end, because of you both. Darius's hand tightened on Layla's. He felt him breaking, felt the grief rising like a wave, felt him trying to hold it back, to be strong, to be marble. You can let go, Layla whispered. You don't have to be strong right now. Darius looked at her, eyes devastated, lost. Then he broke, actually broke.
The grief poured out in wrenching sobs that shook his whole body. He pulled Layla close and cried into her shoulder like a child, like someone who'd forgotten how to grieve and suddenly remembered. Layla held him, let him shatter, let him fall apart, knowing she'd help him piece back together, knowing this was what love meant, holding someone when they broke, being strong enough for both of them. Samira left them alone. Hours passed. Darius's tears slowed, stopped, but he didn't let go, didn't pull away, just held Layla like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Don't. Grief isn't weakness. It's love with nowhere to go." "Who told you that?" "My mother, the night before she died." Layla's voice was soft. "She said grief was
They buried Nadia 3 days later in the rose garden she'd loved. Small ceremony, just family, a few close friends. The priest spoke about love and legacy and beauty that outlives us, about how we live on in those we've touched. Darius stood rigid through it all, hand locked around Lila's, face expressionless. Marble returned. Lila wanted to tell him it was okay to cry, to break again, but she understood. This grief was public, performance. He'd save the real breaking for private, for when they were alone, for when he remembered how. The ceremony ended, people dispersed. Samira hugged them both, told them to stay as long as they needed. Then she left them alone in the garden. Darius stood staring at the fresh grave, at the roses surrounding it, at the stone marker that read, Nadia al-Nasir, beloved mother. She fought for beauty. "Thank you," his voice was rough, "for being here, for staying, for everything." "Of course. We should talk." Darius turned to face her. "About what happens now." Lila's heart clenched. Now? Now that she's gone, now that the lie doesn't need to continue. His expression was carefully neutral. "You can go back to your life. I'll make sure you're compensated. I'll write a recommendation letter. You can work anywhere you want. You'll never have to clean floors again." "You think that's what I want?" "What else would you want?" "You." The word fell between them like a stone. Lila took a breath. "I want you, this, us, whatever this became when we weren't looking." "Lila, this was fake." "Was?" She stepped closer. "It stopped being fake somewhere between the car ride and the proposal story, between the garden conversation and holding you while you cried. I don't know exactly when it happened, but it happened, and I think you felt it too." "I can't ask you to." "You're not asking," Lila interrupted. "I'm offering. I'm choosing. The same way I chose to answer that phone. The same way I chose to say yes in your study. The same way I chose to stay every single day since." "You don't understand what you're saying." Darius's voice was strained. "What it means to be with me, to be in my world." "Then explain it. Make me understand." "I'm a vampire king. I have enemies, political complications, expectations. People will say you're a fortune hunter, that you seduced me, that you're using me. Let them. I have responsibilities, duties. My life isn't my own. Then share it." "I'm not easy to love. I'm cold, calculating. I've spent 300 years building walls." "I've seen your walls." Lila's voice was soft. "I've been inside them, and I'm not afraid." "You should be." "Why?" "Because everyone I love dies." His voice broke. "Everyone I let close, my father, my mother, everyone. Eventually you'll die too, and I'll still be here, alone again." "So you'd rather be alone now, preemptively, rather than risk having someone for whatever time we get. That's not protection, Darius. That's just fear." "Of course it's fear." He turned away. "I watched my mother die, knowing I'd outlive her by centuries, knowing I'd have to carry that loss forever. How am I supposed to what? To love me?
Knowing you'll lose me too? He didn't answer. You're already losing me, Lila said quietly. Every day you push me away. Every moment you choose walls over risk. Every time you pick safety over connection, you're losing me, one piece at a time. This way, at least you'd have something first, something worth grieving. Darius was quiet for a long moment. I don't know how to do this, how to let someone in, how to believe they'll stay. Then let me show you. Lila moved to stand in front of him. Let me teach you, the same way you taught yourself to grieve, one day at a time, one moment at a time, one choice at a time. What if I hurt you? What if you don't? What if I fail? What if we both do? What if it's messy and hard and neither of us knows what we're doing? She reached up, touched his face. What if that's okay? What if trying is enough? Darius closed his eyes, leaned into her touch. I don't deserve you. You don't get to decide that. Only I do. And I choose you. Even knowing, even knowing everything, the loneliness, the walls, the centuries of pain, the fear, all of it, I choose you anyway. Why? Because when I look at you, I don't see a vampire king. Lila's voice was fierce. I see someone who reads poetry in the dark, who quoted Rumi to her dying mother, who cried in my arms, who's terrified of needing someone but brave enough to try. I see someone worth fighting for, the way your mother fought for roses, someone worth staying for. And I'm not leaving just because it's hard. The marble cracked again. Darius pulled her close, held her like she was precious, breakable, essential. I love you, he whispered into her hair. I don't know when it happened, but I love you, and it terrifies me. I love you too. Lila held him just as tight, and I'm terrified too, so we'll be terrified together. They stood in the rose garden beside a fresh grave, surrounded by beauty Nadia refused to let die. And they chose each other. Really chose, not for pretend, not for show, not for a dying woman's peace, for themselves, for the chance at something real, for love that scared them both. Samira found them an hour later, still holding each other, still standing among the roses. I'm going back to the city tomorrow, she said gently. You're both welcome to stay as long as you like, or come back to the palace, whatever you need. We'll stay a few more days, Darius said, if that's all right. Of course, Samira smiled. This is your home, both of you. She left them alone again in the garden. Lila looked up at Darius. Both of us? You're really... Yes, his expression was serious. If you'll have me, if you're sure, if you meant what you said. I meant every word. Then yes, I'm yours. If you're mine. A deal. They smiled at each other, two people standing in a garden, surrounded by roses, holding hands, choosing forever. We should probably tell people, Daria said eventually, that this is real now, that you're actually my fiancé. Do we have to? Why? Because I like this, Lila said. Just us, before the palace, before the politics, before everyone has an opinion, before it gets complicated. It's already complicated, but it's ours. Fair point, Darius smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached his eyes, made him look younger, human almost. So we'll stay here, in the garden, hiding from reality, just for a few more days. Exactly. They spent the next 3 days at the summer estate, walking in the gardens, reading in the library, talking about everything and nothing, learning each other, really learning, not performing, not pretending, just being. Darius taught Lila about vampire history, about the court politics she'd be entering, about the people who'd judge her and the ones who'd accept her. Lila told him about her brother Ahmed, about her dreams of teaching, about the life she'd put on hold to survive. They talked about the future, where they'd live, the palace mostly, but weekends here, how they'd navigate the court together, carefully, what they'd tell people, the truth mostly, that they met, fell in love, chose each other. And slowly, carefully, they built something real on the foundation of something false, built trust, built intimacy, built a future. On the fourth day, Samira joined them for breakfast. "You both look different," she observed. "Lighter, happy." "We are." Darius reached for Lila's hand. "We're actually engaged now, not just for show." "I know," Samira's smile was knowing. "I've known since the garden, since you stopped performing and started living." "You knew?" Lila asked. "Of course I knew. I'm old, not blind." She sipped her tea. "The question is, what now?" "Now we go back to the palace," Darius said, "face reality, tell the truth, deal with the consequences. And, and we do it together." He looked at Lila. "No more hiding, no more pretending, just us, being honest, being real, being terrified, but trying anyway." "That sounds perfect." Lila squeezed his hand. "Absolutely terrifying, but perfect." Samira raised her cup. To honesty, to love, to roses that refused to die. They clinked glasses, toasted to truth and fear, and choosing each other anyway. In 2 days, they'd return to the palace, face the court, navigate politics and expectations and people who'd question everything. But tonight, they had roses and starlight and each other. Tonight, they had truth. And that was enough.
The palace felt different when they returned. Colder, more formal, less like home. Layla stood in the entrance hall, watching servants bustle past, and felt the weight of what came next. She wasn't a cleaning girl anymore, wasn't anonymous. She was the woman who'd answered a king's phone, who'd pretended to be his fiancée, who'd somehow made it real. The woman who'd be queen. Darius must have sensed her panic because his hand found hers, steady, warm despite the cold of his skin. "We don't have to do this today." "Yes, we do." Layla took a breath. "Waiting won't make it easier." The king's steward appeared, the same thin vampire with silver spectacles who'd hired her months ago. "Your Majesty," he bowed. "Welcome back. We're deeply sorry for your loss." "Thank you, Marcus." Darius's voice was formal, royal, nothing like the man who'd cried in Layla's arms. "Please arrange a council meeting for this afternoon. I have announcements to make." "Of course," Marcus hesitated. "Should I prepare anything specific?" "Just the council. And," Darius glanced at Layla, "have someone move Miss Hassan's belongings to the royal quarters." Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "The royal quarters, Your Majesty?" "She'll be staying there permanently. We're engaged." The words fell like stones in still water. Marcus absorbed them without reaction. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. I'll see to the arrangements immediately." He left. Layla exhaled. "That went better than expected." "That was Marcus," Darius said. "He's been with me for 2 centuries. Nothing surprises him. Wait until we tell the council." The council met in a room designed to intimidate, all dark wood and high ceilings, and portraits of dead kings staring down in judgment. 12 vampires sat around a table, old, powerful, used to control. Darius entered with Layla beside him, every head turned, every eye assessed, calculated, judged. "Gentlemen, ladies," Darius took his seat. "Thank you for gathering on short notice." "Our condolences on your loss, Your Majesty." An older vampire spoke, Lady Soraya, sharp-eyed and sharper-tongued. "Your mother was remarkable." "Thank you." Darius's expression was neutral. "I called you here to make an announcement. Several announcements, actually." He paused. "First, I'm engaged." The room erupted, questions flying, objections raised, demands for explanation. Darius waited, let them vent, then raised a hand. Silence fell immediately. "Her name is Layla Hassan. She worked in the palace. We met, fell in love, and I asked her to marry me. She said yes." "This is sudden, Lord Halil.
Elderly, traditional, skeptical. You've shown no interest in marriage for 3 centuries, then suddenly, he gestured at Layla. A human? Not just any human, Darius's voice went cold. The woman I love, the woman who will be your queen. That requires council approval, Lady Soraya's smile was sharp. Protocol demands. Then approve it. I'm not asking permission. I'm informing you of my decision. Your Majesty, Lord Halil stood, with respect. We have concerns. Voice them. She's human. She'll age, die, leave you alone again. Is that the life you want? A few decades of companionship followed by centuries of grief? Yes, Darius's answer was simple. If those are the decades I get with her, then yes. But she has no title, no political connections, no training in court matters. She's a... He paused. What did she do here? She cleaned floors. Layla spoke for the first time. Every head turned. I was a cleaning girl. I answered a phone by mistake, delivered a message, and somehow became the woman sitting at this table. So no, I don't have a title, or connections, or training, but I have something else. What? Lady Soraya's tone was mocking. What could you possibly offer our king? I see him. Layla met her gaze steadily. Not the crown, not the power, not the king, the person underneath, the man who reads poetry and grieves his mother and doesn't know how to ask for help. The person who's been alone for 3 centuries because everyone around him sees what he can do for them instead of who he is. The room fell silent. Lady Soraya's expression shifted, not softening exactly, but recalculating. And do you think that's enough? To be queen? To navigate this court? To survive the politics? I think it's a start. Layla's voice was firm. I think the rest I can learn, if you'll teach me instead of tearing me down, if you'll give me a chance instead of deciding I'm not worthy because I don't come from your world. A chance? Lord Halil scoffed. Do you have any idea what you're asking? What this life entails? The scrutiny? The pressure? The expectations? No, Alayla admitted. But I know what I'm choosing. I'm choosing him, even knowing it's hard, even knowing I'll age while he lives, even knowing this court will judge every move I make. I'm still choosing him, because love isn't about what makes sense. It's about who you can't imagine living without. Darius's hand found hers under the table, squeezed. She's right. His voice was quiet. I'm asking you to accept something that doesn't make political sense, that doesn't follow protocol, that breaks tradition. But I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you, Layla will be my queen. You'll accept her, or you'll leave this council. The threat hung in the air. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Lord Halil looked furious. Lady Soraya looked thoughtful. I have a proposal, she said finally. A test? Darius's eyes narrowed. Nothing harmful, Lady Soraya's smile was cool. Simply, let her navigate court on her own for 1 month. No special treatment, no protection from your title. Let her prove she can survive this world before we bind her to it permanently. Absolutely not. Darius started to rise. Wait. Layla's hand on his arm stopped him. What exactly would this test entail? You'd attend court functions, Lady Soraya explained. Navigate social politics, learn protocol, face the same scrutiny any potential queen would face, with the understanding that the council is watching, judging, deciding if you're worthy. And if I fail? Then we ask the king to reconsider, though, she glanced at Darius, something tells me failure isn't in your nature. This is ridiculous. Darius's voice was ice. She's already proven herself to me. That's all that matters. But not to the court, Lord Halil said. Not to the people. Not to the kingdom that will call her queen. They need to see her, to know her, to believe she's more than a cleaning girl who got lucky. I'll do it, Layla said. What? Darius turned to her. No, you don't have to. I want to. Layla met Lady Soraya's gaze. 1 month. I'll learn, I'll adapt. I'll prove I can navigate your world, and when I do, when I pass your test, you'll accept me as queen without reservation, without continued challenges." "You have my word." Lady Soraya inclined her head. "Then we have an agreement. The council will reconvene in 1 month to render judgment." "No," Darius stood. "This is necessary." "It is." Layla stood too, faced him. "If I'm going to be queen, I need to earn it. Not just for them, for me. I need to know I can do this, that I belong in this world, not just because you love me, but because I'm capable." Darius looked at her for a long moment. "Then, fine. But I'm assigning you a tutor, someone to teach you protocol, politics, everything you need to know." "Fair," Layla nodded. Lady Soraya smiled. "Excellent. I volunteer." Both Darius and Layla stared. "You?" "I'm the harshest critic on this council," Lady Soraya said. "If I teach her and she succeeds, no one can question her worthiness." "And if you fail her on purpose?" Darius's voice was dangerous. "Then you'll have my head." "But I won't." Lady Soraya's expression was serious. "Because despite my skepticism, I want to be wrong. I want her to prove me wrong." The meeting ended. Council members filed out, some of them looking intrigued, others disapproving. Lord Halil left without a word. When they were alone, Darius called Layla aside. "You didn't have to agree to this." "I know." "Then why?" "Because they're right." Layla took his hands. "I don't know your world, don't know how to navigate it, and I need to learn. Not because they demand it, but because if I'm going to stand beside you, if I'm going to be your partner, not just your love, I need to be capable." "You're already capable." "Of loving me?" "Yes." "Of surviving court politics?" Layla smiled. "That remains to be seen." Lady Soraya appeared in the doorway. "Miss Hassan, we start tomorrow morning, 7 sharp. Be ready to work." "I will," Layla nodded. "Good. And," Lady Soraya's expression softened slightly, "for what it's worth, I hope you succeed. I really do. Because if you can make him happy, if you can thaw 3 centuries of ice, then you're already more powerful than any of us." She left. Lady Soraya proved to be a brutal teacher. The first morning, she arrived at Layla's quarters before dawn, dressed in perfect black, carrying a stack of books taller than Layla's arm could reach. "You have 30 days, she said without preamble. "We don't waste time with pleasantries. Get dressed. We start now." The lessons were relentless. History of the vampire court, protocol for every possible social situation, names and faces and family histories of every significant noble, the politics of alliances and rivalries, the art of conversation that revealed nothing while appearing to share everything. "You speak too much," Soraya observed on day 3. "You fill silence because it makes you uncomfortable. Learn to be still. Silence makes others reveal themselves." On day 5, Layla attended her first court function, a small gathering, just 50 vampires, all watching her, all judging. She remembered Soraya's lessons: stand straight, speak only when necessary, smile but don't grin, show interest but not eagerness, reveal nothing. By the end of the evening, her face ached from smiling, her brain throbbed from remembering names, but she'd survived. "Not bad," Soraya admitted on the drive home, "for a first attempt." "High praise indeed," Layla murmured. "Don't get cocky, we've barely begun." Day 10 brought a new challenge, a formal dinner with the council members and their families. Layla sat at the table surrounded by ancient vampires who'd spent centuries perfecting the art of subtle cruelty. Lord Khalil was the worst. His questions seemed innocent but carried hidden barbs. "Miss Hassan, your family must be so proud. A cleaning girl marrying a king. It's like a fairy tale." "My family is proud of me regardless of who I marry." Layla kept her voice pleasant. "But yes, my brother is thrilled. He's studying medicine, wants to help people. I think that's the kind of thing any family would be proud of." Lord Khalil's smile tightened. "And your parents?"
They passed away a few years ago. How unfortunate. They would have been surprised by your good fortune. They taught me that fortune has nothing to do with happiness. Layla met his gaze steadily. They were poor, they died young, but they were happy because they had each other, because they had us. I learned from them that love is the only thing that matters. Everything else is just details. The table fell silent. Lady Soraya hid her smile behind her wineglass. Lord Khalil said nothing for the rest of the evening. Day 15, a crisis. Layla's brother Ahmed called. His voice was tight with panic. Layla, there are people here, at the apartment, asking questions about you. They say they're from the palace. Layla's blood ran cold. She found Soraya immediately. Someone's investigating me. My brother. They went to his apartment. Soraya's expression didn't change. Of course they did. I expected this. You expected? Someone harassing my 16-year-old brother? It's standard procedure. When a human becomes engaged to the king, everything is investigated. Background, family, history. They're looking for leverage, something to use against you. Layla's hands shook with anger. He's a child. He's been through enough, losing our parents, watching me struggle. He doesn't deserve this. Then you need to handle it. Soraya's voice was calm. Not by getting angry, not by running to Darius, by facing it yourself. Go to your brother, talk to the investigators, show them there's nothing to find, but you're not hiding anything. Layla went. She took the train to the city, walked into her old neighborhood, found two vampires in suits outside her building. She didn't wait for them to speak. I'm Layla Hassan. If you have questions, ask me. Leave my brother alone. The vampires exchanged glances. We're just following procedure, miss. Then follow it, with me, not with a scared 16-year-old who's already lost both parents. They questioned her for 2 hours about her past, her family, her finances, her relationship with the king. She answered everything honestly, held nothing back. When they finished, the lead investigator nodded. Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Hassan. We'll file our report. And my brother? Won't be bothered again. Layla went inside and hugged Ahmed until he stopped shaking. When she returned to the palace, Darius was waiting, furious. I just heard. Why didn't you tell me? I could have stopped it. Could have... No. Layla put his hand on his chest. This is my fight, my test. I handled it. You handled it? By yourself? I did. Darius pulled her close. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from it. You are protecting me by letting me do this myself. Day 20. Layla attended a charity gala, raised more money for vampire-human medical research than any event in a decade, not because she was queen, because she told stories about her mother's illness, about her brother's dreams of becoming a doctor, about how sickness didn't care about species or status. People opened their wallets not for her, for the cause, for the humanity in her words. Day 25. An interview with the Vampire News Network. Layla sat in a chair, lights hot in her face, questions coming fast. Are you really in love with the king, or is this about money, power, status? I'm in love with the man, Layla said simply. The king is just his job. What do you say to those who think a human isn't fit to be queen? I say watch me. I say give me a chance to prove them wrong. I say that love and determination and the willingness to learn matter more than bloodline or species. The interview went viral, in vampire circles anyway. Day 28. Layla walked through the palace and servants bowed to her, not because they had to, because they wanted to, because she'd been one of them, because she remembered their names, asked about their families, thanked them for their work. You've done it, Soraya said that evening, without emotion, but her eyes were warm. Done what? 1. The council will approve you, unanimously, even Khalil, especially Khalil after you handled his granddaughter's questions so gracefully at the dinner. I just told her the truth, that her grandmother would be proud of her work with orphaned vampire children.
That's what I mean. You see people, really see them. That's rare. That's why they'll accept you. Day 30. The council reconvened. Layla stood before them, Darius beside her, Soraya at the end of the table. The vote was called. 12 hands raised. Unanimous. Lord Khalil spoke last. His voice was grudging but genuine. You've proven yourself, Miss Hassan, more than I expected, more than all of us expected. Welcome to the family, such as it is. Layla smiled. Thank you, Lord Khalil. I'll do my best to be worthy of your trust. The meeting ended. Council members filed out. Some stopped to shake her hand, offer congratulations, welcome her properly. When they were alone, Darius pulled her close. You did it. We did it, Layla corrected. I couldn't have without you, without Soraya, without everyone who believed in me. I believed in you from the beginning. Darius kissed her forehead. You just had to believe in yourself. I do now, Layla smiled up at him. I really do.
The wedding took place 3 months later, in the rose garden, just as Nadia had dreamed. Samara stood as witness, Soraya too. Ahmed walked Layla down the aisle, his arms steady beneath her trembling hand. You okay? He whispered. More than okay. Layla squeezed his arm. You? I'm good, he smiled. Mom would be so proud. I know. Darius waited at the end of the aisle, beneath an arch of white roses, looking less like a marble statue and more like a man in love than Layla had ever seen him. The ceremony was simple, ancient vampire traditions mixed with human ones, words of binding and promise, exchange of rings, vows spoken from the heart. I, Darius, take you, Layla, to be my wife, my partner, my queen. I promise to love you not just for this lifetime, but for all the lifetimes I have left, to protect you, to cherish you, to let you protect me too, to let you in, to let you stay. I, Layla, take you, Darius, to be my husband, my partner, my king. I promise to love you through every season, through joy and grief, through easy days and hard ones. I promise to see you, always, the man beneath the crown, and to remind you every day that you deserve to be loved. They kissed, soft and sweet, a promise sealed. The small crowd cheered. Ahmed whistled. Samara cried. Soraya smiled, actually smiled. And in the garden, surrounded by roses that had survived winters and blights and droughts, a cleaning girl and a vampire king began their forever. The reception was small, intimate, just family and close friends, good food, better company, stories told and laughter shared. Late in the evening, Layla found herself alone in the garden, standing by Nadia's grave. She touched the stone marker, spoke softly. I promised you I'd take care of him. I promised I wouldn't let him be alone. I'm keeping that promise, every day. I hope you're watching. I hope you're proud. A hand touched her shoulder. Darius. Talking to my mother? Always, Layla leaned against him. She gave me you, in a way. Her dying wish brought us together. Her dying wish, and a phone call, and a girl who answered it when she shouldn't have. I'm glad I did. So am I. They stood together in the garden, the stars overhead, the roses around them, the future ahead. What happens now? Layla asked. Now? Darius smiled. Now we live, we love, we rule, together, for as long as we have. And when I'm gone, when I die and you're still here, then I'll grieve, he said simply, and then I'll wait and search and find you again, because that's what I do. That's what I'll always do. You promise? I promise. They kissed again, soft and sweet and full of forever, in the garden, among the roses, where a dying woman's last wish had come true, where love had bloomed from a lie,
where a cleaning girl became a queen and a vampire king learned he deserved to be loved.
5 years passed. Layla stood in the same garden, watching a small boy chase butterflies through the roses. He was 3 years old, dark-haired like his father, bright-eyed like his mother, already stubborn, already curious, already loved beyond measure. His name was Adam, after Layla's father, after no one in particular, after everyone who mattered. "Mama," he ran to her, arms outstretched. "Butterfly, big one." "I saw, sweetheart." Layla scooped him up. "So fast." Darius appeared at the garden door, smiling, always smiling now. "Dinner's almost ready. Samira's outdone herself again." "She always does." Layla kissed his cheek as he took Adam from her arms. "How was the council meeting?" "Boring, as usual. They spent an hour arguing about trade routes. I spent the hour thinking about you." "Liar." "Maybe a little, but only a little." They walked back to the house together, Adam chattering about butterflies and roses in the garden that was his favorite place in the world. Inside, the house was warm, full of light and laughter. Samira in the kitchen, Soraya at the table, reviewing documents with Ahmed, who was now in medical school and spending summers at the palace. Family. Real family. Not blood, not obligation. Choice. Layla stood in the doorway, watching them, Darius beside her, Adam in his arms. "Happy?" Darius asked quietly. "More than I ever thought possible." Layla leaned her head against his shoulder. "You?" "I didn't know this existed." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Didn't know I could have this. You, him, us, all of it. Now you do." "Now I do." Dinner was loud, chaotic, perfect. Adam spilled his juice. Ahmed and Soraya argued about medical ethics. Samira told stories about Darius as a child that made everyone laugh, even Darius. After dinner, Layla walked alone in the garden, the sun setting, the roses glowing in the fading light. She stopped at Nadia's grave. "Hi," she said softly. "Just checking in. Everything's good. Adam's amazing. Darius is happy, really happy. We're all okay. Because of you. Because of a phone call and a lie and a dying woman's wish." She touched the stone. "Thank you for everything." A small hand slipped into hers. Adam. "Mama? Who you talking to?" "Your grandmother." Layla lifted him up. "She's the one who planted all these roses. She loved them. Loved your daddy. Would have loved you too." "Is she here?" "In a way," Layla smiled. "In the roses, in your daddy, in you. She's always here." Adam considered this, then nodded, satisfied. "Can I have a butterfly?" "Tomorrow." Layla kissed his cheek. "Tonight, bed." They walked back to the house together, mother and son, the garden behind them, the family ahead. Darius met them at the door, took Adam for bedtime, pressed a kiss to Layla's forehead. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too." She stood in the doorway watching them go, her husband and son, her family, her life. 5 years since a phone call changed everything. 5 years since she'd answered a stranger's phone and said 4 words that became a lie, that became truth, that became forever. The stars came out, the roses bloomed, the house was warm with love, and Layla Hassan, once a cleaning girl, now a queen, stood in the doorway of her home and smiled. This was her life, her choice, her forever, and it was perfect.